If you're enjoying the cooler winter temperatures here in sunny Florida, you're probably taking the opportunity to spend some productive time in your garden or landscape. On today's show, we'll bring you some information about gardening this time of year in our area. Good evening and welcome to Volusia Magazine. I'm Amber Patterson. On today's show, we'll also learn about the Fire Rescue East Convention and Trade Show that was held recently at the Ocean Center. Then we'll find out how Votran honors its best and brightest drivers. And we'll even see a field trip to a special boat manufacturer right here in Volusia County. Those segments and more coming right up on Volusia Magazine. The Ocean Center continues to book major conventions and trade shows, providing an economic boost to local hotels, restaurants, and stores. An estimated 6,000 delegates attended last week's Fire Rescue East Convention and Trade Show, where they inspected state-of-the-art emergency vehicles, equipment, safety gear, and supplies. The event, managed by the Florida Fire Chiefs Association, also included continuing education classes for professional and volunteer firefighters, a trade show, and even competitions.
Well, Fire Rescue East is a good event for us. They've come back. They've been here every year since we opened the new edition, since 2009. They bring in about 6,000 to 7,000 people for 3 or 4 days. And it's open to the public on one day so that they can see the latest in all the emergency equipment and so forth. And they also have a lot of competition between the firemen and training classes as well.
This year, Volusia County Fire Services hosted a 3-day hazmat symposium and competition in conjunction with the Fire Rescue East Convention. More than 150 firefighters from across the state took part in classroom training and hands-on exercises. And 7 teams took part in a thrilling hazmat competition outside the Ocean Center complex. The 3-person teams responded to simulated leaks of hazardous materials, researched the chemicals, donned the appropriate suit, stopped the leak, and stabilized the scene.
When people think of hazmat teams on fire departments, they think, oh, you deal with rail cars or you deal with a car leaking gasoline, and we're far more outreaching than that. Now we're dealing with weapons of mass destruction. Currently, we're dealing with an Ebola event all across the United States. And again, our hazmat teams and our first responders on the front lines are your first ones that are going to be going to these calls. So this training is so vital for them to be up to speed on how to protect our citizens here in the great state of Florida.
The Florida Fire Chief Association is Florida's leading education organization for fire and emergency services professionals. It also promotes and supports excellence in fire and emergency services. Beginning February 2nd, riders of Votran, Volusia County's public transit system, will have to come up with an additional 25 cents to ride the bus. In a move to help offset substantially higher operating costs, the Volusia County Council last year approved a 2-part fare increase after several town hall meetings and public hearings. In February last year, regular one-way fares increased from $1.25 to $1.50. Even with the increase, Votran fares will be below the rates charged by most of the larger transit systems in Florida. Over the last 6 years, Votran has experienced consistent ridership increases and higher operating costs. Votran's budget is approximately $21 million and receives $8 million in funding support from the county's general tax fund. Votran General Manager Steve Cooke said the county's subsidy is projected to grow, and that's one of the major reasons why the fare increase was necessary.
In 2013, Votran and the County Council started looking at ways to increase revenues. We began that discussion as we noticed that the amount of fares coming in related to the total budget was starting to get below our comfort level. The cost of providing service continues to go up, and we hadn't had a fare increase since 2007. So when we started analyzing the amount of fare revenue coming in to the total budget, we determined that we wanted to recommend to the council that they approve a fare increase. with the first part of that fare increase taking place in February 2014.
Votran service began in 1975 to serve the Daytona Beach area. As Volusia continued to urbanize, population growth supported an expansion of service. Today, Votran service is available countywide, traveling 6.1 million miles just last year. The Votran family of service includes fixed route bus service, express bus commuter service, dial-a-ride paratransit service, and commuter assistance programs. For more information, you can go online to Votran.org. Well, it took him about 40 years to do it, but Votran operator Bernard Huggins now can claim that he's driven 3 million miles without a preventable accident. In achieving the rare Safe Driver achievement, Huggins becomes only the second Votran bus operator to reach the 3 million mile safe driving record. Among Huggins' other honors is being named the Florida Bus Operator of the Year in 2010 by the Florida Public Transit Association. He's also been named Votran Employee of the Year.
I couldn't be more excited for a person to achieve something like Bernard has, because it couldn't go to a more deserving person. He has constantly encouraged others here at Votran that he's trained and that he's mentored throughout the years to be safe, and that's the priority. Safety has always been his #1 priority, and he loves what he does.
It takes approximately 12 years for a public bus driver to travel 1 million miles. Everett Doc Wilson was the first Votran driver to reach this public transportation service benchmark in March of 2014. Both 3 million milers said it's all about great training.
Oh yes, they stress the safety every day. Safe is their goal, and they enforce that each and every day through each driver. Every day, and that's the key of Votran, and that's what they love, safety, and that's something that we all have to do as a professional driver, as Votran. As we come to work every day, we look forward driving safely and getting people safe to their destination each and every day.
In honor of Huggins' most recent accomplishment, Votran will display a 3 million miler vehicle wrap on a fixed route bus in West Volusia. Huggins has been driving for Votran for 40 years and has no plans to retire.
Hello, I'm Dr. Willie Kimmons, a member of the Children and Families Advisory Board. This volunteer group works with the Volusia County Council and makes recommendations that promote healthy children and strong families. It is an honor and a pleasure to serve on this board. The county has openings on several advisory boards, which allow you to play an important role in the policy-making process. If you'd like to share your time and talents with your county government, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit volusia.org/advisory and complete an application of the board of your choice. Today, we must make a concerted effort to save our children, because our children are our future. Thank you.
A major boat manufacturer is celebrating a major expansion right here in Volusia County. Reporter Joanne Nagley has more in this week's Business Beat.
Danny, would you please cut the ribbon and usher in the next chapter of the unsinkable legend?
Hundreds of Boston Whaler employees were on hand to celebrate the $10 million expansion of its manufacturing facility in Edgewater, an expansion that created 120 new jobs in 2014. The reason for the expansion was the need for a new facility that could handle really big boats. The nearly 60,000-foot expansion now allows the company to produce the 420 Outrage, the company's largest boat. Mark Essig, Boston Whaler's Manager of Manufacturing Engineering, says the bigger boat is what customers want.
We have a great product development design group, and they talk to our customers and they look at what we need out in the marketplace, and it sort of grew from there. Of the new 42 we have here, we're planning on probably about 25 of those a year. Out of this building, we'll probably be shipping a boat a day.
Boston Whaler President Hugh Bauer led the ribbon-cutting ceremony before a crowd of employees, community leaders, and executives from the parent company, Brunswick Corporation, and says support the company received from the community helped make the expansion possible.
We have options as part of Brunswick Corporation, which owns numerous brands, numerous manufacturing plants, to look at manufacturing opportunities elsewhere. But for us, the support we had from our local community, the partnership we had with the City of Edgewater and Volusia County Council meant that it was very attractive, and we wanted to keep jobs locally and on one campus. From a business perspective, it's extremely attractive to have one campus without having employees split over across many campuses.
Boston Whaler currently employs 555 employees, team members who Bauer says are the key to the company's success.
To me, this celebration, it's nice to have a building and the equipment and all it symbolizes, but it's a celebration of the team, a team that is focused on winning in the marketplace and delivering outstanding product to consumers.
For the Business Beat, I'm Joanne Magley.
In part 2 of his cold weather plant protection program of Horticulture Today, horticulturalist Joe Sewards will give us some important information on myths associated with cold weather plant protection.
Hi, I'm Joe Sewards, and welcome to Horticulture Today. In our last edition of Horticulture Today, we talked about some of the tips that you want to be mindful of with upcoming colder temperatures and plant protection. Now I'd like to talk about some of the myths associated with cold protection of plants in the wintertime. So let's talk about some myths and things that you shouldn't do. As I kind of mentioned before, remember, the vast majority of landscape plants do not need to be covered. If they are adapted, even if they freeze down to the ground, they will come back if they're healthy, if they're well-adapted plants. Another myth is weeds. Freezing temperatures will kill some weeds back, but remember, if freezing temperatures killed weeds, we wouldn't have any weeds. Weeds are amazingly well adapted, and they either have underground structures that will help them survive freezing temperatures, or they will produce a lot of seeds, and the seeds can be dormant for a long time and pop back up later. So keep an eye out for weeds. They will come back. The third thing is planting. Again, well-adapted plants for this area can be planted at any time of the year. They're going to stay outside all year round, so planting new landscape plants during colder temperatures is not a bad thing. You can do that. It won't hurt them. They've been outside in the nursery where you bought them anyway, so bringing them home and putting them in the ground is actually one of the best things you can do, because that will actually help increase their hardiness during colder temperatures. If you do have questions about protecting your plants during colder weather, you could always call us or email us here at the University of Florida Extension in Volusia County. Our email address is mastergardener@volusia.org, or you can call us here at the office at area code 386-822-5778. So we've talked about the tips associated with cold weather protection for your outdoor plants, and we've mentioned some of the myths. Don't panic, be patient. Winter is actually a good time to grow some plants in Florida. We have camellias, we have vegetable gardens, so don't worry. Summer is on the way. For Horticulture Today, I'm Joe Sewards.
Now let's head into the studio to join Community Information Director Dave Byron as he sits down for a chat with Steve Cooke, Daytona Beach International Airport Business Development Manager.
Well, thank you, Amber, and hi, everyone. Passenger traffic at Daytona Beach International Airport is on a steady climb. And with new development projects on the horizon in the area, airport administrators hope the case is being made for expanded air service at our airport. We haven't talked about our airport for a little while, so today we have with us in the studio Steve Cooke. He's the Business Development Manager at Daytona Beach International Airport. Steve, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Doing great. Happy New Year to you, Dave.
Hey, it's all good news, right?
Everything is good news for 2014, and so we're very pleased about it.
All right, let's start with the big picture, Steve. I always like to start with the national landscape. You know, what's going on in the airline industry today that affects the passengers, Steve?
Well, the good news, I would say, is that the price of fuel has come down dramatically.
Big expense for the airlines.
Big expense. It can be a third to a half of the operating costs of a commercial carrier. And
right.
What we've seen is the price of jet fuel come down almost in half in a very short period of time. So this is, I think, making the airlines a little bit more robust, a little bit more looking toward the future, willing to consider new and different things. So I think that bodes well for a smaller airport like Daytona Beach. And we're seeing some smaller airlines actually come out of the woodwork again nationally. So I think it's going to be a good year, 2015, for the airline industry.
Yeah, Steve, let's talk about what's happened in the last few years. You know, you and I have talked about this in the past. You know, you've had these big mainline carriers that seem to be consolidating themselves, and now you're down to just a handful of major carriers in the United States. The latest, I guess, was at what, American and U.S. Air.
Right. There's really four.
Yeah.
You've got Southwest, you've got Delta, you've got United. You know, there's really four major carriers, and so what you're seeing is really those carriers really trying to offer fewer seats.
Right.
I would say the last several years, and fares have gone up, as you've seen nationally.
Right.
This situation with lower costs is, I think, you're going to see some pressure on those fares to actually go down. You know, that fuel prices are down, so it's going to be, I think, a competitive and good environment in 2015.
You know, Steve, you talked about fewer seats, and I've talked to people that travel a lot, and one of the things that they have noticed is that it's harder to get a seat on the mainline carriers. And my brother, for example, flies back and forth all the time from D.C., and he says, you know, sometimes it's hard to get a seat.
That's true. It's certainly true in Daytona Beach because we don't have that many seats. But if you look across the board, it's exactly that. The airlines are practicing what they call capacity constraint. They're offering fewer seats and they're raising prices. But then you've got this economic push, you know, that's coming at you in lower fuel prices, and the economy is doing better overall. There's more jobs. So I think that's going to push it the other way in 2015.
Looking at Florida, you know, Florida being a big leisure destination, tourism has been on a record pace for the last couple of years. The airlines have got to be doing well in the state of Florida, I would think.
They have to be. They're making more money than they have in years right now. And people are driving more, but they're also flying more. So I think on all fronts we're going to see economic growth. Couldn't happen at a better time, and we're all very excited about it.
All right, well, let's zero in on Daytona Beach International Airport. The numbers are in for calendar year 2014, and it's good news, Steve.
It's good news. We were up 4% for the month of December. We're actually up 4% for the year. And the good news, I think, for December was we're seeing the airlines add more seats again to Daytona Beach. For this month, January, we've seen larger aircraft, both from U.S. Airways and from Delta. About a 5 or 6% increase in the number of available seats for the month of January. Now here, that's going to translate, we believe, in more passengers. So
right.
that's all good news, and we see that trend continuing for the rest of the year. We see it's going to be steady to maybe some slight increases during the year.
Let's talk about Daytona Beach International Airport's mainline carriers, which are, you mentioned, U.S. Air and Delta. Steve, from what I hear from you and Rick, the airport director, both of those airlines seem to be profitable and seem to be happy in
yes,
Daytona Beach.
I would say that's true. We stay in close communication with our incumbent carriers. And of course, U.S. Airways is now going to be American, and
right.
you know, all of our aircraft that are actually serving Daytona are in the American livery right now. And they're working on a counter backwall change right now. So what you're going to see there next couple of months, it's all going to say American, and the U.S. Airways brand is going to disappear. You know, as the Continental brand disappeared and as some others have disappeared. So it's going to be a little different, but the good news is they've consistently been using larger aircraft. You know, if you look at U.S. Airways, last year they were typically using 50-seat aircraft and 70-seat aircraft. Now they're using 90-seat aircraft.
That's good.
So it's a big change for them. I would say in percentage of more seats added, they're higher than Delta, but we've also seen some additional seats from Delta. So it's good news on both fronts.
All right, so up 4% for the year. I know every piece of positive news that goes on in Volusia County, you feed it to the airlines. What's on the horizon, do you think, in terms of additional air service at our airport?
Well, we're going to be meeting with United later on this year. We're going to be meeting with Delta again toward the end of the year, and I hope to get a meeting with American very, very soon. We've got at least 5 out-of-airport trips planned. JetBlue is one of them.
Right.
So we're going to keep working on them for the New York surface. But also, you know, we see some potential with United maybe considering service to Newark. So all of that is on the horizon. I think the numbers are moving in the right direction. If you look at our yield numbers for Daytona Beach, you see that they're doing really better today than they've ever done. In the
Yield
history of
means
the airport.
profit, right?
It basically means profit. But if you look at us, compare us with Melbourne, we actually are ahead of Melbourne on yield right now, which we've never been.
Right.
That's typically more of a business airport than Daytona Beach. So those things, the things that the airlines look at are really moving in the right direction.
Steve, you had mentioned before that there was an all-out full-court press on JetBlue. There was a big community effort. There was a travel bank pledged, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau agreed to do some advertising. Still no word yet, I guess, from JetBlue.
We keep working on. We went to see them in September. They had a major management shift at the top, and so we've tried to really get to know the new top managers in JetBlue. We have a great story to tell. You know, it's a real opportunity for them, and we hope they will consider it.
And you had said the last time American to Dallas, or American maybe south to Miami and further points south.
We think
still on the table, you think?
Yeah, I think American has opportunity with Dallas. If you look at the connections out of Dallas versus Charlotte, there's almost no overlap between Charlotte and Dallas. And you know, they're adding people, adding seats, adding traffic all the time. So it's a good argument to make for Dallas. You know, and basically you will have better westbound service if we get that.
Right.
So we're going to keep working on that.
Well, I would have to think, Steve, with all of the positive developments in the greater Daytona Beach area, you know, there's hotels, talking new hotels, there's the expansion of the Daytona International Speedway, there's the talk of the Daytona One project across the street. All of that, apartment complexes going up and so forth, expansion of the Volusia Mall, what have you, what have you. All of that has got to be capturing the attention of the airlines, I would think.
We tell them again, and then we tell them what we told them, because it's a lot of economic development for this community, particularly those hotels that are going up on the beach, the Hard Rock Hotel, the hotel that's being built by the Russian group,
right.
The Westin Hotel down on the beach. All those are really excellent venues for the airport because they're going to attract people who generally fly in airplanes and not drive in. So it's a good thing for the community, certainly a good thing from the airport's perspective.
You know, the airport is a department of Volusia County government, but we make the point consistently that you don't operate with county tax dollars. You operate with revenues that you have to make yourself. You're like an enterprise fund of your own business.
We are a business.
What's the fiscal picture at the airport these days?
It's improving as well. I mean, if you go back to 2008, we were actually in our reserve funds, and now that's not the case. We are doing well. We're in the black. We expect that's going to continue in 2015. So it's a good picture, you know, revenue-wise for the airport. And of course, we're looking all the time for new opportunities, lease deals, commercial deals, airline deals. Because those funds really are what operate the airport at Daytona Beach International Airport. We do not use local tax dollars, and certainly do not want to use local tax dollars. So it's very much a self-sustaining enterprise.
For those folks that you know, are not intimately familiar with the picture in Volusia County, the airport and so forth, all of those businesses around the airport, like the hotels and the restaurants and that sort of thing, they're tenants of the airport.
Oh yes, you know, we have Outback Steakhouses at the airport, great tenant. We're going to have Hooligans Restaurant come in. They're just starting, they're in the permitting stage. We have 500 acres of additional property, mostly on the south side. We can see part of that being developed for commercial development, part of it for aviation development. There's a lot of opportunity for growth out at the airport. And so we're working on many levels now to maximize that growth.
And that, I think, Steve, you know, there is volatility from year over year in the airline industry, and having steady streams of rent incomes and that sort of thing, I would think would help stabilize and, you know, give you guys more of a foundation fiscally.
Oh, it is. It's very important. We have a reserve fund. It's probably up around the $15 million range. But what's really interesting to me is the state of Florida just did an economic impact analysis, and they did one 3 years ago, but our annual economic impact, according to that study, which looked at every airport in Florida, is really over $1 billion a year to this community. So it's,
Wow.
it's a significant impact. A lot of employment, a lot of payroll happens as a result, a direct result of the Daytona Beach International Airport.
You mentioned hooligans. There's a lot of interest in that site. It's a very, very high visibility site right next to the Outback Steakhouse.
It is.
Across the street from the Volusia Mall. It used to be the Olive Garden property. Give us a little bit more detail on what we're going to see there, and what's the timetable, you think?
Well, I think you're going to see something coming out of the ground, certainly within 2015. Hopefully it'll be done this year, but it'll be about the same size as the existing building, which was the old Olive Garden. About 10,000 square feet of space. You know, it's an attractive building. They have one in Port Orange, which is a very attractive building. They've got the best chicken wings that I've ever had in my life.
So are they? So Steve, are they going to go to the slab and rebuild, or so they're not going to renovate the old Olive Garden?
No, I think it's a total. I would call it a total reconstruction.
And for those folks that aren't familiar with Hooligans, it's a great local company.
Oh yeah, they have 4 locations. They're down in Port Orange. They're in Norman Beach. They've got a great following, and we think with the location on the airport, particularly with the Embry-Riddle students and all of that, it's going to do very well.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you very much for sharing the information. No reason to believe that 2015 won't be a really good year for the airport.
We believe it will be.
Well, Steve, again, thanks for being with us, and thanks for sharing the information.
Okay, Dave, thank you.
And with that, we'll go back to you, Amber. Our guest today, Steve Cooke, the Business Development Manager at Daytona Beach International Airport. If you want more information about Daytona Beach International Airport, go to the website flydaytonafirst.com. With that, Amber, back to you.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you for watching Volusia Magazine. If you have any questions about the show, you can always feel free to give us a call at any of the numbers you see listed here, or you can log on to volusia.org and click on the News tab at the top of the screen to find us. Incidentally, you can find the County Council's meeting calendar there too. In fact, you can use volusia.org to find out about meeting dates, workshops, topics of interest, activities, and how you can become involved. And we hope you won't forget to listen to Volusia Today. It's Volusia County Government's weekly public radio broadcast. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday and Sunday mornings on the local radio stations you see on your screen. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Amber Patterson. Have a wonderful evening.